Welcome to People, Power, and Politics. Hard talk, riveting interviews, community updates, in-depth analysis. That's People, Power, and Politics. We tell it to you as it is. No holds barred. You are the people, you have the power. We bring you the politics. To listen to our show, be a guest, or to advertise, visit www.pppradio.nyc. That's www.pppradio.nyc.
Ready when you are, okay?
I'm ready.
Okay.
Yep. Thank you.
You're welcome. You are listening to People, Power, and Politics, where we talk about the change makers shaping our communities and holding power accountable. Today, we are joined by New York City Council member Crystal Hudson, who made history in 2021 as one of the first out-gay Black women elected to the council, representing the vibrant 35th district covering Fort Greene, Clinton Hill, Prospect Heights, Crown Heights, and parts of Bedford-Stuy. As chair of the Committee on Aging and co-author of groundbreaking initiatives like the Black Agenda and the Marsha and Sylvia Plan, Hudson has worked to redefine what equity and justice look like at the city level. She's now seeking re-election, and today we ask, what has she learned, what has she accomplished, and where is she headed? Welcome, Council Member Hudson. Always a pleasure to speak with you.
Thank you so much for having me again. It's good to see you and be with you.
You're so very welcome. So looking back, as you reflect on your first term, what would you say was the single most impactful moment or achievement, and why did it matter for the people of District 35?
I think there have been so many impactful achievements from my work in the Aging Committee, as chair of the Aging Committee, as co-chair of the Black, Latino, and Asian Caucus. One of the things I'm most proud of was a recent accomplishment, which was the Atlantic Avenue mixed-use plan, which is a rezoning of Atlantic Avenue, which will bring $215 million of investments into the area, the neighborhoods specifically of Crown Heights, Prospect Heights, Fort Greene, Clinton Hill, and a little bit into Bed-Stuy. It's going to bring about 4,600 new units of housing. 40% of those will be affordable for working families, and it will include redesigning of Atlantic Avenue to make it a safer corridor for everybody to cross. It will include investments into our parks and playgrounds, sewer systems, and so many other infrastructure upgrades. And so it's one thing that I know will have a huge impact on the community and making it a safer, more livable place for everybody.
Okay, so let's look ahead. What are your top 3 priorities for your next term, and how will those priorities directly impact day-to-day life for your constituents?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for this question. I think it's so important to make sure that we're working towards a more affordable city, and that includes everything from access to affordable housing, affordable healthcare, affordable childcare, affordable groceries, and increasing wages so that people can actually afford all of those things that I mentioned. Community safety, ensuring that we're using non-police methods in addition to investing in some more of the traditional systems, to ensuring that we're really tackling gun violence in a tangible way. That's something that's impacted many different parts of my district, as well as continuing the work around older adults. The city is aging rapidly. We're going to see an increase in the older adult population by 40% in just the next 15 years. And also the fastest growing homeless population is older adults. And so we need to do as much as we can, as quickly as we can, to make sure that not only can everyone age safely and with dignity in place, but that also we are creating opportunities for people to stay housed as they age.
Excellent. So let's look at housing and development. And I know that you mentioned your latest project on Atlantic Avenue.
Mhm.
You've been vocal about opposing luxury development without real affordability, and you introduced a community development framework for District 35. How do you envision creating housing that truly meets the needs of low and moderate income residents while addressing the city's housing crisis? Because sometimes we hear about affordable housing, but really persons cannot afford the affordable housing, and what we need is low income housing.
Absolutely. We need a little bit of everything, all types of housing. You know, one thing that we hear regularly from constituents is, you know, that they're overqualified, right? They make too much to qualify for the deeply affordable or very low income housing. You know, they may have good jobs with good wages, a union job, perhaps, even as a teacher or something else. And unfortunately, they're unable to qualify for the deeply affordable housing, and then nobody can really afford to pay $4,000 or $5,000 for a studio or one bedroom apartment anywhere. And so we need to make sure that we're creating more opportunities for more housing of all types, and then specifically also using the area median income for local neighborhoods. So that's what we did through the AIM-UP rezoning that I mentioned. We looked at the area median household income for Black families versus white families in the area, and made sure that we set the MIH component to address the needs specifically of the Black families in that area. We have a number of deeply affordable housing units that will be included in that plan, but also affordable units for moderate income families. And so, like I said, we need to make sure that we're both reflective of the folks who are already in the communities, and then also building more housing that accommodates the needs of a wider group of people who want to be able to stay in their communities, who want to be able to have their kids, eventually grow up and also live in the communities that they were raised in.
So you mentioned about our population going to be aging by 40%.
Mm-hmm.
And you centered aging policy in your legislative agenda, informed by your caregiving experience with your mother. What new investments or legislation would you pursue to ensure older New Yorkers can remain in their homes with dignity?
Yeah, so we had an age-in-place legislative package, essentially 1.0 version in my first term. Then we introduced a 2.0 version in my second term. And so continuing along that work, making sure that we're making home delivered meals available every single day of the year. Right now, we don't have home delivered meals on the weekends, for example. And we always say, older people eat every day, right? They're not just eating Monday through Friday. And so we need to make sure that we're providing the funding necessary for the organizations to support the needs of every older New Yorker. And then also addressing some additional housing needs, trying to address people who may live in, let's say, a rent stabilized apartment or a walk up that they've been in for 50 years, that maybe because of mobility issues or challenges, they're no longer able to walk up 3, 4, or 5 stories to get to their apartment every single day, in and out for groceries or errands or doctor's appointments or this or that. And so we're working on a program with HPD to try to move folks into, lower level units or into brand new units that won't cost them any more than they're already paying. And that's that's taking a lot of hard work, and we're putting in a lot of effort into that. But that's certainly one of the priorities, is trying to make sure that we're providing, like I mentioned, a roof over everybody's head so that they can actually age in place here in New York City.
Excellent. So public safety is a concern of everyone, and public safety and mental health. Looking at those issues, you've emphasized a public health approach to safety. In a city still grappling with how to balance policy and prevention, how will you strengthen community-based programs, mental health services, and alternative emergency response models?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a proud member of the council's Progressive Caucus, which has launched its Crisis to Care budget initiative, which I'm also proud to be supporting, and that's making sure that we're not using police as our first line of defense for mental health crises. Not only are police not thoroughly and properly trained in responding to those types of emergencies, but it's also work that most of them don't want to do. We need to make sure that mental health providers, mental health experts, that peer mental health providers and experts, people with their own lived experience, can provide those types of support systems, and making sure that we're investing in the mental health beds that we need, so that if people are hospitalized, that we can provide them with the services they need for an adequate amount of time, and not sort of like cycling people in and out very quickly, making sure that people are stabilized, and making sure that we also have enough affordable, supportive housing for people with mental health challenges. So many ways that we can and should be investing in ensuring that people are getting the help that they need.
Okay. So looking at LGBTQIA and advocacy, June is Pride Month, and you help pass major protections for LGBTQIA plus New Yorkers. With attacks on queer and trans rights escalating nationally, what new safeguards or policies would you implement locally to keep New York City a true safe place?
Yeah, I really appreciate this question, and it's so timely because just today the Supreme Court, upheld the ban on gender affirming care and health care for trans youth in Tennessee. Thank you. And also, the Trump administration announced the full suspension of funding for LGBTQ suicide prevention resources. Certainly, I think it's fair to say they're literally trying to kill us. They're trying to kill trans people. They're trying to kill the LGBTQ community. And New York City is a safe place for LGBTQIA plus folks, for trans and gender nonconforming folks, and certainly for trans youth. We will do everything to ensure that doesn't change. And being on the front lines and making sure that everybody knows, and that we're getting the word out there too, that people aren't continuing to live in fear here in New York City when their rights and access to gender affirming care, to health care of all types, and to their existence is valued, is supported, is respected, and is the law. And so, we passed a package a couple of years ago after Roe v. Wade, or the Dobbs decision from the Supreme Court, that was similar to a package that we had passed in response to that, in direct response to that, around reproductive access to reproductive health care. We passed a similar package of bills that protected anyone seeking gender affirming health care, including those coming from other states. And so, this city is a sanctuary city in many different senses, in many different ways. We are always going to protect our immigrant communities. We're always going to protect our LGBTQIA plus communities. We're always going to protect our marginalized communities. And it's important that people know and understand that New York City is here for them.
Thank you. And talking about marginalized communities, let's talk about the Black Agenda and implementation. You co-authored the Black Agenda for New York City, and I know that you saw many of your, what you wanted, you actually put into action, but there's always skeptics, and many Black residents remain skeptical about promises without follow-through. How are you ensuring this agenda turns into measurable change, particularly in economic justice, education, and community investment?
Yes, and I appreciate this question, and totally understand how people aren't trusting of government and want to see promises followed up with concrete action. And I'm very proud of so much of the work that I've done that has been a direct result of all of the agendas and policies that I hoped to move forward and hoped to pass. And so one of those is the creation of a truth, healing, and reconciliation process. So that came directly out of my Black agenda. It was passed in a package of bills that includes a reparations bill. So my bill is essentially the first step, which is the requiring the Commission on Racial Equity to establish a truth, healing, and reconciliation process that will acknowledge and outline all of the ways in which the legacies of slavery are still rampant in New York City, and the longstanding and detrimental impacts on Black people and the Black community here, and will then create a report that offers ways and ideas and policies and budget allocations to address a lot of those, the legacy of slavery. And then from there, my colleague's bill, Councilmember Farrah Lewis, her bill will actually establish reparations. And it will be looking at reparations in the city. And then that will also be in collaboration with the state process of looking at reparations across New York State. So we are actually, tangibly changing the lives of Black New Yorkers through this piece of legislation, through the package as well, and of course through the Black agenda.
Okay, so we know that early voting started on June the 14th and
Yes.
elections is on June the 24th. But how can one support your campaign, in any way, shape, or form, given on the last stretch, so to speak?
Yeah, well, there's still plenty of volunteer opportunities to come out, work at a poll site, either during early voting, which is through Sunday, June 22nd, or of course also on election day on June 24th. You can go to my website, crystal4bk.com. That's crystalforbk.com to sign up to help volunteer and come out. Also, just spread the word. There are a couple of other people running in my race. They're spreading misinformation and lies about me, and that's what people do when they feel like their backs are up against a wall. They have no record of their own to stand on. I'm the only candidate in my race who's delivered anything for the district, for Brooklyn, and for all New Yorkers. I'm proud of that record. And so I would just, tell people, don't believe the hype, and make sure you're always checking your sources to ensure that what you're seeing or reading is fact.
All right. Thank you so much. So Councilmember Crystal Hudson, thank you for joining us on People, Power, and Politics, whether it's championing senior rights, advocating for marginalized communities, or reshaping how development happens in Brooklyn. Your work is helping to define a new era of city council leadership. And speaking about city council leadership, I want you to go for that speaker position, okay?
Yes, ma'am. I'm going.
All right.
Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. We look forward to seeing how your vision continues to evolve when the people of the 35th District send you back for another term. Thank you for your time and your service.
Thank you so much for having me, always.
You're so very welcome.
People, Power, and Politics. Hard talk, riveting interviews, community updates, in-depth analysis. That's People, Power, and Politics. We tell it to you as it is. No holds barred. You are the people, you have the power. We bring you the politics. To listen to our show, be a guest, or to advertise, visit www.pppradio.nyc. That's www.pppradio.nyc.